This is an armed revolt against the American government. Make no mistake about it. That does not change the nature of the event, and that does not change the fact that every criticism leveled against what we are planning to do would be true of any act of resistance, of any open protest, of any act of rebellion. And to say, well, there are potential negative consequences as an excuse to cower before government does not strike me as something that would be said by someone who cares about risking what they hold dear to achieve what we hold most dear, and that is the liberty that is supposed to be a core value of this nation.
Rabble-rouser.
I was recently appointed revolution czar of the Obama administration.
He needs it. All right.
Yeah, but you work for Russian TV, don't you?
Yes, I do.
How much do they pay you a year?
Enough.
How much?
Enough.
How much are you paid by the Russian government?
Enough.
Well, tell us, if you believe in freedom of information, give us the figure. How much does Putin pay you?
I believe in I believe in respect for certain privacy. I'm going to maintain my privacy on that.
Why don't you tell us? You plead the fifth on that?
Are you a journalist for Russian TV, the English language service?
I'm a host of Adam versus the Man, and they have given me full editorial control by contract, and I'm grateful to have that platform. It's something that the American government does all over the world, subverting other governments, and it's sort of like we're the rebels in Libya, except that when we called for close air support, we got a TV show instead.
And how many shows have you done on human rights and violations in Russia?
Well, that's not really the focus of my show. It's about fighting for freedom here in America.
What
about
fighting for freedom in Russia? You said you have editorial independence. How many shows have you done on human rights violations in Russia?
Well,
why don't you tell us?
Adam is the hope that your freedom, the freedom that you fight for here might be contentious.
He covers America. He can't speak for himself.
It looks like it is. It looks like it is.
You haven't done one show on human rights in Russia? You haven't done one show on human rights violations in Russia?
First Amendment. It's not what my show's about.
Oh, it's not what it's about, but you'll take their money.
They let me criticize the Russian government, and I've done that on the air before.
But you haven't done any shows on human rights violations in Russia.
I'm more concerned with human rights violations in the United States, and as an American, I think it's disgusting that you're more concerned about the people in Russia than the violations of freedom that are going on right here in the United States of America.
And you're a paid agent of the Putin regime, aren't you?
Yes, we are.
Yes, you are.
Yes, I am.
Yes, you are.
Yes, I am.
And that doesn't bother you.
No, because we are the resistance.
Human rights activists say slavery is a widespread problem in Russia and blame the law enforcement system for not doing enough to prevent the escalation of the problem.
Russian human rights activists said that slavery is a widespread problem in Russia, that the law enforcement system is not doing enough to prevent the escalation of the problem.
Activists, our civil rights activists, started this process that freed these poor women and their children who were actually enslaved in this grocery shop. Then the investigative committee took steps, meaning open a criminal case. And then the general prosecutor's office said no, we don't see any element of crime, and then everything froze.
The case became known more than a month ago when a kidnapping of 3 children was reported to Moscow officials. The children were allegedly taken from a Moscow grocery store. The children were later found, but a man calling himself an activist said 2 women were being held as slaves at the grocery store, located underneath a Moscow apartment building. Video taken by activists showed a woman from Central Asia at the grocery store crying and hugging another woman after journalists and rights workers stormed the store. Activist and recent Nobel Prize nominee Svetlana Ganushkina says the case is just one of many incidents of slavery in Moscow.
This case has surfaced, in my opinion, because of one and only reason. Because there was terrible torture, and not because of a slavery case is rare here in Russia. This is an established system in Russia, and our law enforcement system not only doesn't want to resist it, not only doesn't want to fight it, but it supports this system. And I think that says that in our kingdom, everything is far from quiet. There's a feeling of the system working, a huge system. And probably because of that, this case that is not unique, not local, is not escalated. Because this system, the investigation of this system can take us very, very far.
Russia attracts millions of migrants from former Soviet Union states, which depend on their remittances. In cities, they are often attacked by skinheads and other nationalists and are easy prey for corrupt police who extort bribes for minor violations. Polls show xenophobia in Russia is increasing. Many migrants toil at construction sites for meager salaries and live in crowded barracks where infectious diseases are widespread and which are regularly raided by the Federal Migration Service.
Russia's government during President Vladimir Putin's new Kremlin term is conducting the toughest crackdown on dissent since the 1991 Soviet collapse, a prominent international human rights group said in its report published on Wednesday. Human Rights Watch said in the report that the government has curtailed the freedom of assembly and expression, curbed non-governmental organizations, and targeted critics.
It's been 1 year since Putin has come back to the Russian presidency, and in that year we've seen the worst crackdown ever on civil society in the post-Soviet period, in the post-Soviet era. It's a broad-ranging, all-out offense on basic civic freedoms that turns the clock way, way back in Russia. The government is arguing that this is just what every country does. Every country has laws regulating NGOs. Every country inspects NGOs. Well, every country does have laws that regulate NGOs, but I can assure you that they don't have laws like this. And I can assure you that inspections like the campaign that's taking place all over Russia and that continues today is not something that takes place in every country. This is not meeting some reasonable goal of transparency. It's serving a different goal entirely.
Putin, 60, was first elected in 2000 and was widely seen as holding the reins during his ally Dmitry Medvedev's 2008-2012 presidency.
I think that it's not exaggerating to say that there is a human rights crisis in the making in Russia right now, that we're at in a very existential moment, and I think that the intergovernmental bodies that Russia is a member of and should be a proud member of need to sound the alarm. There needs to be an urgent debate about the state of civic freedoms in Russia today.
The release of the reports coincided with the politically charged trial of Alexei Navalny, a leader of a wave of protests over the past 18 months that Kremlin foes say prompted Putin to take a series of steps to silence dissent. They criticized a wave of state inspections of NGOs, which Putin has called routine, as well as what Amnesty International called, quote, the use of excessive force by police and arbitrary arrests, end quote, at protests. Human Rights Watch said criminal cases, including the trial of 3 members of Punk Bad Pussy Riot, 2 of whom are serving 2-year prison sentences for a protest criticizing Putin and the Russian Orthodox Church in its main cathedral, are, quote, examples of Russia's waning commitment to international human rights obligations, end quote. Putin's spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, said this week that Putin takes criticism from abroad into account, but he has accused Western governments of using human rights concerns as a pretext to meddle in the affairs of Russia and other countries.
Hey, can you tell me how much Adam Kokesh is paid by Russian TV? You don't know? Can you find out for me? How you doing?
No.
No?
It's none of my business.
None of your
business?
Interested. Not interested, huh? No. Well, why can't I get... You won't tell me. Is there somebody at your Russian TV operation who will tell me? Will somebody at Russia TV tell me how much Kokesh is getting? No? Come on, give me just let me know. Is it 200,000 million a year?
I have no idea.
No idea? All right.
began to show. Began to show. When it's over and the heart breaks and the cracks begin to show.
What would it take for us to get rid of the container? The end of the world. Let's go. We're leaving.
And the cracks begin to show. Begin to show.
Fucking idiots who did this shit, okay? Think about what you're doing. Think about what you're doing. Okay? He won't explain why this was on his page. He's ignoring it. It's off his page now, so a lot of people can just say, oh, it was photoshopped. Ah, yeah, right. Well, May 8th is when this was posted. Okay, this is when we found this. Adam Kokesh, Facebook work information, work info, employer, Obama for America. Here it all is, okay? This is the day we found it. This was copied right from his profile. Look at all the people. You think all these people just made all this up? You think we made this up over on Godlike Productions? This wasn't a joke. Okay? Adam Kokesh never said he was hacked. He never said his Facebook was compromised or something. Now, if you think if it was, he would have said something. You think if it was a joke, he would say, oh, guys, you know, I had this thing on my Facebook page and a lot of people took it seriously. It was just a joke, though. Yeah, well, where was that explanation? It never was. Okay? Look at all these people who saw it that day. Look, there's 4 pages of this. Don't follow this guy into the fire. Tell everyone you know. Share it with your friends. This guy is a government operative.
I was recently appointed revolution czar of the Obama administration.
He needs it. All right.
Yeah, but you work for Russian TV, don't you?
Yes, I do.
How much do they pay you a year?
Enough.
How much?
Enough.
How much are you paid by the Russian government?
Enough.
Well, tell us, if you believe in freedom of information, give us the figure. How much does Putin pay you?
I believe in respect for certain privacy. I'm going to maintain my privacy on it.
Why don't you tell us?